Stop! Where are you taking me? I don't have any more funny quips to give! Where are we? What's going on? Oh my god, they're real. The melon heads. The melon heads are real! I saw them. They're real. They're out there and terrifying people. Or do they really exist?
I'm a melon head. I'm as fruity as can be. You'd be really fruity too if you had a head like me. I'm soft and juicy and so full of taste, and none of this style is going to waste.
The melon heads are a piece of American folklore that has existed for a few decades. The main areas— oh god, not Maine again! The main areas where the stories are located are Michigan, Ohio, and Connecticut. The basic description of this creature is essentially small humanoids with bulbous heads. They occasionally attack people from their hiding spots that are usually in the woods. There are a multitude of different versions of the legends in many different regions of the 3 states mentioned earlier.
Cause I'm a melon head. I'm as fruity as can be.
The origins of the melon heads are unknown. Nobody really knows where the legend started, but people have made educated guesses on when it started. The earliest stories / reports about these beings date back to the 18th, 19th century. In Risbury, England and Bavaria, Germany, people describe beings very similar to melon heads. However, they called them Weebleheads. Despite the name being different, nothing else about the appearances are any different. The first reported sighting in the United States varies completely. The legend more than likely started in Michigan, but there are no articles I found about a potential starting point for it in this state. There are 3 completely different versions of a potential origin to the Ohio story. One of the apparent first sightings was an old lady taking a kid with a large head back to her cabin to live with her. She named him George Schmeichel for some unknown hellish reason. Then, his head exploded shortly after for an unknown reason that only God can understand. Because if you have a large head, it's just going to blow the fuck up. Another version involves a man named Peter Brady. He was mentally ill, which is a great start to this story, that you need a mentally ill man to see this person. He was taking a stroll through the woods and saw a creature. He ran back out of the woods and told everyone what he saw. This then turned into the legend of the Melonheads. I find it really strange that Peter has to be mentally ill. The third and final version has a little more weight to it than all the others, but not enough to really be definitive. In the late 50s and early 60s, there lived a kid with hydrocephalus in Kirtland, Ohio. He was enrolled in the Kirtland School District like a normal child would be and lived on Wisner Road. Him and his friends would travel together purposefully scaring people with the size of his melon, pardon the pun. Those people would run away scared then tell everyone they knew that they were chased by a mythical melonhead. The original kid with hydrocephalus would be dead by now as of the writing of this script, because hydrocephalus can fucking kill you, and I'll get to that later. All of this information about the child is from a Blogger article. A man named Ryan Orvis messaged them, and this was the story. We may not know the origins, but we do know the stories people tell.
I bet you'd like to eat me for your evening tea. I'm healthy, fit, and my head is green.
There are many different variations of the legends in all 3 states they're located in. If you think there's 3 different versions of this legend, you are fucking mistaken. There are 3 different versions of this legend, and each separate version has another version shooting off of that version. And I'm going to be talking about as many as I saw. I saw a fucking lot of them. Not all of them make sense to be a variation, but they exist, and people say that that's the version of the legend. So we're talking about them all. We're going to start with the state of Michigan, where the legend supposedly started. The location they reside in is said to be Felt Mansion at the Saugatuck Dunes State Park. This mansion was built in 1928 for one Dorfelt. It was meant to be a summer home for him and his wife, since he liked the area a lot. If you want to hear more about the Felt Mansion, you can go over to the video that is up on my channel right now called 10 Facts in 10 Minutes #1. They are also seen in the southern forested areas of Ottawa County. Some people start saying there are children being affected by the multitude of nuclear power plants in the area. If you do a basic level of research, you can figure out something I will explain to you later on in the video. The other version is probably a little more believable. Just for future reference, a majority of the stories involve children with hydrocephalus. I could bore you with the talk if it's not right to call children strange creatures when all they have is a disease. I say, fuck them kids, Bully them at a young age so they know how cruel this world can be. You need to get them in early. I don't give a fuck about you or your children, and in the immortal words of one Brock Lesnar, I don't give a shit about your kids. I'm calling them fucking weird for having a melon head like Hey Arnold. Hydrocephalus is where there is a buildup of fluid in the brain. It puts pressure on the brain and can cause brain damage. It's most common in infants and older adults. These kids suffering hydrocephalus that I'm bullying the absolute living shit out of, they lived at Junction Insane Asylum where they suffered emotional and physical abuse. By me, but also the doctors and the hospital. But mainly by me. I am beating and bullying these children into fucking obscurity. The hospital was forced to close, making the doctors release their patients into the surrounding forest where they became feral. Because obviously, that's what you're supposed to do with mentally insane people, is just go, you know what, fuck it. Out into the woods with you. Become feral. Cause irreparable damage to fucking society because we're doctors and we know what we're doing. Some versions say these children lived in the mansion itself and not the insane asylum. But either way, they escaped into the woods. They fled into the woods. They eventually fled and hid themselves in abandoned cave systems left by a forgotten zoo. This zoo doesn't fucking exist. I'm just putting that out there now. Straight up, this zoo doesn't fucking exist. I don't know of any forgotten or abandoned zoo in the Saugatuck area or anywhere close by. I tried. I could not fucking find anything. There is no zoo there, especially with abandoned cave systems that were attached to the fucking zoo. This isn't like cave systems by the zoo. This is a zoo cave system. The zoos were transporting the monkeys underground. There are even variations, like I said, on top of fucking variations. This is variationception. I expect Leonardo DiCaprio to break into this room any moment. Some people say they came back to the mansion to kill the doctor that abused them. They didn't have a way to hide a body, so they decided to cut it up and hide it among the mansion grounds. They also potentially ate the body. An art teacher by the name of Mr. Culver is literally fucking insane. He doesn't just believe it's a nuclear power plant. He believes that it's a mixture of the two, of the radiation and the fucking insane asylum stories. I'm going insane already because of these fucking melon heads, and trust me, it gets better and worse at the same time. We should 100% believe him because an art teacher knows everything about the history of an area. Stick to your lane and tell people how to draw and paint well. If you don't, you won't get people like me who love to draw no matter how bad the drawing might end up, i.e. this crude drawing of the map of America that I randomly did, and apparently I decided, fuck Wisconsin and Minnesota, get the fuck out of here. Despite my better judgment, I will explain to you his theory. Scientists at the asylum performed experiments on the patients using nuclear radiation. Somehow, this is the fucking kicker. This is where I say he's insane. Somehow, in some ungodly fucking known way, the patients gain telekinetic abilities. They can move shit. They can start lifting shit and throwing it at people. Don't ask me how they did. He didn't explain how they did it. They just gained it from radiation. They overthrew the faculty at the asylum and took over the entire facility with their fucking kinetic powers. The police and or the government never tried to take back the facility because it would take too many resources and was too far away from the nearest town. I looked it up. The nearest town is 13 minutes away from the site. Oh my god, there's no conceivable way that this is too far away for anybody to do anything about telekinetic beings taking a fucking government facility. It's the fucking government. They would love to know how people got telekinetic fucking abilities. I do not understand where this art teacher got any of this from. It's insane. That's not even all of the Michigan legends. There's another version involving an actually real POW camp in Allegan called Camp Allegan. Americans started experimenting on the German soldiers there and caused them to get the trademark of the melon heads, swollen heads. Then they escaped into the forest around the camp where people started seeing them. The locals around the area started seeing these melon heads during the 1950s. One story has been passed around the region. That story involves the Felt Mansion, where supposedly they lived at. Teens broke into the mansion and started seeing ghosts of the melon heads murdering the doctor. People have also experienced curtains moving, strange noises, heavy breathing, footsteps, and shadows. So that shit's haunted, I guess, by melon heads. We're done with Michigan. Thank God, we're done with that fucking art teacher. We now move south to Ohio for a Melonhead legend mainly associated with Kirtland in Lake County, which is conveniently the same location that the kid with hydrocephalus was from. The Melonhead started popping up in Ohio around the 1970s, roaming around on Halloween night, ready to scare anybody simply passing by. I don't know why specifically Halloween, probably because it's spooky time, but still, fuck you, I want to see some Melonheads during Christmas. The government commissioned a doctor named Dr. Crow to treat children suffering from hydrocephalus. They hired him shortly after World War II and gave him some orphans to look after. Or he kidnapped/bought the orphans from the mental asylum he was working at. Either legally or illegally, he acquired some orphans suffering from hydrocephalus or not and was looking after them. I really like the idea that he works at a mental asylum and there's children there, and he decides, I'm going to kidnap and buy these children. I would like your finest large-headed child, ma'am. He let them live in his house, which is located at Charlton Township off of Wisner Road, where the ruins of the house still lie today. He performed experiments on the children, even potentially lobotomizing them, making them passive and a little slow. Not my words, but the words of the article I took it from. They developed large hairless heads and deformed bodies, thus the Melonhead name. That was just one version of the story involving this Dr. Crow individual. A majority of them do involve him taking care of orphans, so don't expect a major change in every variation of the story. This version, the kids have hydrocephalus already, but instead of lobotomizing them or some other weird shit, he just injected more fluid into their brains, causing their heads to grow even larger. Why in the hell is this guy the worst living human in existence? The children then killed Dr. Crow and burned down his house. They fled into the forest where their diet became infant children. That's right, the forests are filled with babies because that's what they started to eat. I don't know where people come up with some of this shit. Infant babies are what the Melonhead started eating. Where the fuck are they getting the children from? Last time I checked, when I go out into the woods, I don't see babies in fucking papooses just laying around everywhere. They don't grow from literal fucking trees. You have to birth those bitches. You can't just pluck them off the ground. Do they sneak into your house and steal your fucking infant child? Where do they get the babies from? Like, actually, I'm genuinely curious. Another variation is that the government performed the experiments on them and then released them into the woods. This is where Dr. Crow took them in and cared for them like they were his own children. He died of natural causes, the house caught on fire, and the children fled into the woods once again. And don't worry, folks, we have another version of this Melonhead story. This one involves the wife of Dr. Crow. She loved the children and cared for them like how a mother would, either due to a fight with her husband where he pushed her or an accidental trip. She died hitting her head on a cabinet. This then caused the kids to go into a frenzy and kill the doctor, thus sending us back to an earlier version. We're back to Variationception because this version has its own fucking variation. In this one, the doctor tried to calm the kids down, but instead of calming down, they continued their frenzy and knocked down a kerosene lamp, lighting the cabin on fire. Everybody died. The end. The real Melonheads people are seeing are actually the ghosts of those children haunting the forest where they died. However, there's an even more wild version of Dr. Crow, where it has him performing illegal abortions and even killing a deformed baby. He would bury them on the knoll on his property. His basement would also echo with the cries of the dead fetuses and babies. I don't know how this equates to Melonheads. I'm assuming the ghosts of the fetuses are the Melonheads, but I don't know how fetus ghosts work. Ghost shows don't really explain that. There is yet another version of this legend. So it starts with the government experimenting on them and dumping them in the woods by Wisner Road. I don't know if Dr. Crow was still taking care of them or not, but they were well taken care of, so they weren't going ballistic. After a while of living in the woods, one would long for the feeling of being a part of society once again. They would sneak out of their group just to try and get a glimpse of civilization. After they saw it, they'd be satisfied and leave. That's when people would see them the most at night, longing for society. People have described these Melonheads as hairless, deformed limbs, razor-like teeth, and glowing red eyes. All in all, the Melonheads are used as explanations for any unsolved missing person cases around Wisner Road. As well as Wisner Road, they are located in Charlton Township in Goga County, King Memorial Cemetery, and King Memorial Road. Some stories of people seeing them involve them going over an old bridge known as a Crybaby Bridge. We move east to southwest Connecticut for our next variations on the Melonhead legend. These ones are somehow less crazy, but more crazy at the same time compared to the other stories we've encountered. There are specific counties and locations. The specific counties are Litchfield County, Fairfield County, and New Haven County. The specific locations are, and I'm listing them all, Newtown, Newton, not Newtown, shit! The specific locations are, and I'm listing them all, Newton, New Milford, Trumbull, Shelton, Stratford, Monroe, Easton, Weston, Seymour, Oxford, Milford, and Southbury. Our first story involves an asylum existing in one Fairfield County. This asylum was for the criminally insane, which is another great way to start a story. The asylum burned down in the fall of 1960. Don't ask me how, I do not know. They did not explain it. This isn't like before, where I didn't tell you what could have started it until later. I just straight up don't know how this one started. This fire resulted in the death of all the staff and a majority of the patients housed there. However, 10 to 20 patients were able to escape the fire and hid out in the woods. They developed the melon head appearance from eating people during the winter months. Wait a damn minute, this sounds eerily similar to a certain mythical being we've talked about before. I just can't put my finger on it. Anyway, back to the rest of the story. Where was I? Eating people in winter? Oh yeah, they also inbred with each other. Good old-fashioned incest. This is how they got hydrocephalus. By fucking each other, because that's how you get that disease, is by inbreeding, is by fucking your own family. You get hydrocephalus from fucking your sister. Alabama is probably filled with these motherfuckers. There are individual variations of this version of the story, but they only change small facts like the asylum being a campground or the town having a different name. The other main variation of the story involves a colonial era family living in Connecticut at the time. They were known as the Shelton Trumballs. This family just so happened to get accused of being witches. In order to save their family and their town any future trouble, the family decided to flee into the woods and live in exile from that point on. They started getting their melon head appearance from, you guessed it, more incest. Connecticut is really obsessed with incest. At this point, I'm going to start calling it Connectabama. They prey upon people who enter their territory, which I assume means they eat them. So also more fucking cannibalism. Nice job, Connectabama. Individual variations just have small details changes as well. Usually, the territory the melonheads reside in has an old dirt road running straight through it. Some towns like Newton, New Milford, Shelton, Trumbull, and Monroe place the story at an old dirt road specifically called Dracula Drive.
I'm the weirdest guy that you've ever seen. I'm a melon.
The legends are interesting by themselves, but I'm a weirdo, and I like knowing why people started making these stories up. Legends like this can be influenced by other legends that people have heard throughout the years, like the Bavaria, Germany legend, or the Risbury, England legend of the Weebleheads. Many legends or folklore feature mutated/deformed people. Someone could have looked at those tales and gone, I have a perfect tale for my town. For example, Connectabama has a lot of similar stories to the Melonhead stories. The Danbury Frog People, the Faceless People of Monroe, and Mongoloid Village, just to name a few, which I really like the fucking name of Mongoloid Village, and that might have to be a video in itself. The Frog People, fantastic. Frog people, beautiful. Cook them up, eat their legs French style. The Faceless People of Monroe. Alright, they don't got faces. But then you got Mongoloid Village. I don't know the definition of Mongoloid, and I'm not looking it up, but I feel like that is just not right to call somebody, just walk up and go, you fucking Mongoloid. People also just simply fear what they don't understand. Honestly, they could have just branded these deformed people as monsters and started telling stories about their encounters with them. However, I do understand going into the woods, seeing a deformed person hiding behind a tree, and running away yelling it's a monster. I'm not staying behind to have a civilized discussion with the potential axe murderer in the woods, no matter how deformed they could be. People are probably just afraid of some uncivilized rural individual, where in reality they're just as civilized as the rest of us, but probably not. The legends were probably used to scare children who were misbehaving into behaving correctly, like the Krampus stories. And enough with this bullshit of trying to figure out why people believe the Melonheads exist. I don't give a rat's ass about that anymore. I want to know if they do exist.
I'm a melon head. I'm as fruity as can be.
The best way to start is to figure out the influences for the folklore. Connectabama has a specific landmark that fits one of their incest stories because I love fucking incest over there. Fairfield County has the Fairfield Hills State Mental Hospital, a now defunct insane asylum. It operated from 1931 to 1995 and housed over 4,000 patients at one time. Clearly, it didn't burn down and kill everyone, but that doesn't mean there wasn't a fire that allowed some people to escape and do some inbreeding. Fairfield County also has a prison named Garner Correctional Institute. It still fully operates today, but any escapees could become melonheads just by fucking each other and fucking their parents. These are both located in Newtown. Even Danbury has the Federal Correctional Institution, which is located in an area filled with farms and fields. This area was always a rural area according to historical records, so this never was like a fucking big town. This was always country. The Michigan stories only really have one influence, and that is the Felt Mansion, which we already discussed previously. However, Ohio has some potential influences. According to a few witnesses, there used to be a family that lived in a cabin in the woods. This family had a disabled child that was suffering from hydrocephalus. This child would sit on a fence at the edge of the property. This fence was next to a dirt road where people kept on seeing this child waving at them as they drove by. The other influence involves one Dr. Crow. He's back, bitches, and ready to mutilate some fetuses and kill some newborn babies. According to his great niece, Rosemary Ruth Crow Richards, there is a real Dr. Crow who lived in Ohio. Dr. Crow was born around 1859 and died on May 9th, 1945. He's buried in Lakeview Cemetery in Ohio. His full name is Etienne Pascal Crow. His last name was spelled without the E first until people just started putting it into his name for some fucking reason. He would marry Jessie M. Horrocks in 1897. She'd eventually die sometime before 1932. Both Horrocks and Crow were doctors. I have an address for where he lived at, which is insane that his great niece would just dox him like that, and I'm going to dox him as well. He lived at 6518 Superior Avenue. He bought a cabin in the early 1900s on a road that we are familiar with already, Wisner Road. There is no running water or electricity in this cabin, so having kerosene lamp to light up the room actually makes some sort of sense. The legend is starting to seem more like reality than actual folklore. He really only lived there on the weekends in the summer months. The cabin did in fact burn down in the 1960s, which is conveniently around the time people started seeing some melon heads running around down in Ohio. There's a stone on the property that had the name Crow carved into it, so people started associating the name with the cabin and the legend. There's a creature very similar to the melon heads from Cree folklore. It's called the Managishi. One guy on Reddit gets really mad when people don't do basic research and look this creature up while trying to explain the melon heads. I'll come back to this later because I have some particular words for this individual. They're described as pygmy human-like entities with long, thin legs and arms. They have 6 fingers on each hand because knowing that really matters to people like me. Large, bulbous, hairless heads with large eyes set atop a very small body. They live amongst rocks near rapids and love to play pranks on people. They apparently have polydactyly, which is essentially polycephaly but with fingers. There's another Native American folklore from the Mohegan people involving the Makiowisog. They're good spirits, and with all good spirits should be treated with respect. Don't treat them like they're one of the boys and fuck around. If you do see the Makiowisog, don't look them directly in the eyes. They find it rude to do so, and they do a wacky thing when they catch you doing it. They will, and I'm not joking, this is legit what I read, make you stick to the ground and steal all of your shit. Oh, I almost forgot. Don't talk about them during the summer. I don't get it. I talked about them during the summer and I'm fine. Oh shit! They taught the Mohegans how to grow corn and use plants for healing. These creatures also keep the earth nice and healthy. My only question is, where the fuck are they now that our planet is literally roasting alive due to global warming? Camp Allegan is a legit POW camp. I brought it up in my 10 Facts in 10 Minutes video, so if you want more information about it, you can find it there. It's located on 42nd Street in Valley Township if you want to go and visit it yourself.
Really fruity too if you had a head like me. I'm soft, juicy, and come from a tree, but
Melon heads are very popular in pop culture and various forms of media. I had no idea how popular they were until someone I know told me I should talk about them. There's a 2011 movie titled The Melon Heads directed by Dake Lysak. This movie is based off of the version of the legend from West Michigan. The Melon heads are very popular cryptid on the internet. There are 2 sites I know of that have talked about the Ohio version of them. Those sites are Creepy Cleveland, a blog about Northern Ohio folklore, and Dead Ohio, a Twitter account showcasing updates and news about folklore in Ohio. Dead Ohio even has a video featuring melon heads that I will show here.
Hold down your window. I haven't watched you. Yes, you have to hold down your window. That's what the thing is.
Okay, like, what do you guys do? Exactly.
However, their last post was in August of 2022 as of me researching the melon head, so I'm not sure if it's still an active account. There is another movie released in 2010 about the melon heads in Ohio titled Legend of the Melon Heads, directed by Brian C. Lawler. I've had an existential crisis while writing the script and question if I'm just like all the other YouTubers who just vomit out the information without putting their personality into it. Thanks to the comment section of the channel Necessary Information, you've really helped me on this one. Anyway, the movie Legend of the Melon Heads is about the Ohio version of the legend along with a few others, like Crybaby Bridge, the Witch's Grove, Gravity Hill, and the Satanic Church, because nothing screams Ohio like Satan. Just a lot of Satan down there. The plot synopsis is essentially a group of 4 young adults spending the night in Melonhead country. Not joking, that's actually what they called it, like the Ric Flair in North Carolina. This group of people are just trying to disprove Ohio legends. It took them a whole movie to do it, and I'm about to do it in one video. Now this video is probably the length of a movie, but they had a budget, and I just have a mic in Photoshop to draw random shit in. I think I won this contest. There is another movie/horror anthology released in 2018 featuring 8 stories from around the world. It's titled The Field Guide to Evil and is directed by Asham Aluwalia, Can Evernal, and Severin Fiala. I've fucking butchered your names, and I'm not sorry, because American names, damn it. The United States story was the Melonheads for some unknown reason. We have shit like Mothman and literal demon possessions, and we chose fucking deformed children. This country continues to not disappoint. Essentially, the story is about how a man's son is taken into the woods and is turned into a Melonhead. In 2024, another movie was released called The Melonheads House of Crow. It's directed by Eddie Lengyel and is about a group of college students seeing if the legend is real or not. If you have multiple movies about people trying to prove your legend is real, you probably have a legend that isn't true in the slightest sense. It's time for everyone's favorite segment of Eyewitness Accounts Time. Don't worry, I learned my lesson and will not make this the whole video like last time. Most of the stories I have are from the Believing the Bizarre website. The first story is essentially a part of the legend itself. A group of teenagers were traveling through Wickliffe, Ohio in 1964. They saw a melonhead staring at them from the side of the road and decided to follow it, because that's exactly what you want to do when you see a deformed human being on the side of the road, is chase him into where he fucking lives at, so he can take his heroin, shoot it into his arms, take his crack, smoke that shit, snort some coke, smoke some meth, and then he's the immediate unstoppable badass. He is literally immortal at that point, and he's going to crush your skull by touching it. They found an old-looking house after following this man, this deformed child, and saw an old couple sitting on the porch with several more melonheads around them. The old man told the teens that he was a former nuclear scientist during World War II, and his kids are a result of the radiation he was exposed to. He also said that the government paid him to keep quiet and moved him to this secluded cabin. He begged the teens to stay quiet about meeting him there, but they did exactly what you and me would have done. They told everyone they knew about the whack shit that's happening in the forests of Ohio. A larger group of teens decided to confirm the story for themselves and set out to find this old man. While driving, they encountered a large group of cops who stopped them and asked why they were out driving so late. The group said they were looking for melonheads, and the cops immediately started saying they weren't real and that the kids needed to go back home. They refused and got taken to the police station for their parents to pick them up. This made the teens believe the cops/government were covering it up. Obviously, the cops aren't looking for your safety of going out into the woods at night.
Don't hold back.
The cops are probably like, these fucking dumbasses are drunk. We're gonna have to dig their bodies out of a fucking bear's stomach. The next story is from a guy named Tony. He probably got stopped at Home Depot because they thought his massive hog was a garden hose and he was stealing it. My name is Tony, and I recently had an experience with the Melonheads. It was on October 5th, 2001. My stepfather, mom, stepbrother, and I were driving down Chillicothe Road in Chardon. We had been driving up and down roads in the same area for almost an hour with no luck. We were just about to go home when we came up on this stretch of road that had fields on both sides and an irrigation ditch running parallel with each side of the road. Just then, I look out of my window and saw him, a melonhead. He, or it, was running along next to the ditch. Since the ditch was too wide to jump over, it was coming close, like it was about to jump, and then pulling away. At the time, we were going about 45 to 50 miles per hour. The melonhead was actually keeping up with us. It didn't look anything like I'd heard in the stories. He looked about the same height as me, 5'7", was wearing brown pants which were very ripped up and where the seams would be. It was held together by what looked like corn husks. It wore a white shirt with brown and red stains all over it, hoping that the red stains weren't blood. Its head was a very light brown tint. It had 2 holes in the sides of its head, which think were ears. Its head was swelled up and its eyes were very big looking. Just as we turned a curve, it jumped into the woods. Just so you know, kids can't run that fast in general, let alone with giant craniums. Our next story is even crazier though. Megan Collin, who was a college student at Notre Dame, went to Dracula Drive with her friends to find some head of the melon variety. They drove down the road, stopped midway, killed the engine, and went into the woods. Very soon after, the girls heard the car starting and turned to look. They saw the car barreling towards them with horn blaring and lights flashing. They jumped out of the way and looked back to, I shit you not, this is the story, see the fucking melon heads driving the car, and I only got one thing to say. Get fucking hoodwinked, bitch! Those melon heads done jacked your shit! They mugged your dog ass crazy style! Go eat some corn long way! The next story is somehow even crazier than the last one. I'm probably on a watch list for what I've looked up after it. My Melonhead encounter from Reddit. In northeastern Ohio, the Melonheads are a local legend. However, the Melonheads are mostly an excuse for teens to get drunk and go to the woods. It's a safety hazard, so it's understandable why the cops try to stop people from trying to find the Melonheads. Despite that, teens still say that it's because they're trying to cover something up. My friends, Darren, Brian, Lucas, Mark, and I decide to have a Friday night of fun by going to the woods to find the Melonheads. We had to evade the cops, but that added to the fun of the night. When we arrived, Brian commented on how creepy it was. He was met with the normal high school insults. We gathered our flashlights and took off into the woods. We were all just having fun, not really caring about the Melonheads. As we walked, we could hear rustling in the bushes beside us. Darren shoved the smaller Lucas near the bush, forcing him to see what it was. The scent of something dead began to form in the air. Lucas pointed his flashlight into the bush and saw a dead possum. He commented on how gross it was, and we kept moving. All throughout our nighttime stroll, we tried to scare each other by saying things like, "What's that?" or "Does anyone hear that?" After about 5 seconds of silence, we would all break out laughing again. Eventually, Brian shoved Mark after he tried to scare us. Mark lost his balance and tipped over, hitting the forest floor with a quiet thud. We all began speed walking away from him, laughing. After a few seconds, Mark screamed. We turned back and all flipped him the bird. He got up and ran over to us. He told us that he saw a Melonhead standing behind a tree. None of us really believed him, and we all just laughed at his claim. He seemed eager to leave, but didn't want to venture through the woods alone. Later, I began to worry about Mark. He kept abnormally quiet. If this was a joke, then surely he would have told us by now. I still shook it off like an idiot. Strangely, we saw more animal corpses. They were mutilated and smelled awful. Eventually, it got so strong we had to resist the urge to puke, and then it was gone with the wind. Confused, we kept on. We began seeing strange, sharpened sticks and rocks on the trail. I wonder how dense I was back then. Ignoring all these strange things, eventually we got back in the laughing spirit. We were still a little unnerved, but nothing that laughter can't fix. The trail seemed normal from there on out, but Mark was still nervous. Darren and Brian were slapping Lucas in the back of the head, so he ran up about 10 yards in front of us. As he did that, I watched as Mark's eyes grew huge. He tried to call it to Lucas, but then Lucas paused. We all ran up to him. We were greeted by the sight of some sort of house made out of sticks. The house had dead animals inside. We panicked now. We looked back, but we saw one of the Melonheads cross the trail. One peeked out at us from behind a tree. We were all athletic kids, so we ran as fast as we could out of there. I knew we were being tailed. We ran into Darren's car and shut the doors. We didn't even bother buckling up as we sped away from the spot in the forest where we were. We went a little too fast as a police officer pulled us over. We were happy to see another human, nonetheless one with a gun. He opened our window and saw our scared faces. He seemed worried at first, but then had a smug look on his face. He knew we were looking for the Melonheads. He thought that we had heard some noise and got scared. He didn't listen to us. Was he not hearing what we were saying? After we had calmed down, the officer heard a noise behind him. We were now scared out of our wits. The officer looked at the spot in the forest from which it came and told the person to come out of the woods. 5 seconds later, he had his gun drawn. He was now yelling at the person to freeze. Then a small sharp rock flew in and lodged itself into the officer's forehead. Blood splattered our window. We sped off. I decided to be brave and look back, and I saw something I'll never forget. A Melonhead standing over the officer's body. It brought out some sort of rock dagger and began cutting off the officer's limbs. The local newspaper reported on the missing officer. Although they never found his body, my friends and I already know what happened to him. We never told anyone this story, and I only bring it up since I saw something that caught my attention in the news. The bodies of 3 teens showed up in the forest yesterday. All of them had been hacked to oblivion by some sort of stone weapon. So I've looked, and there's nothing I could find involving a missing Ohio officer. Never mind the force needed to throw a stone to lodge itself in a human skull. I don't think I need to say this, but those small creatures probably wouldn't have enough force to do that with their tiny, thin arms. But now, it's time to shatter your dreams of going hunting for some deformed children in the woods of Michigan, Ohio, and Connecticut.
I don't fit in the fruit bowl, so nobody likes me. I'm a melon.
They don't exist in the slightest. Let's start with the story of the asylum in Western Michigan. I am about to run through every variation and shit on it. The Allegan County Historical Society has looked through their records and found out that the asylum was never there in the first place. Instead of an asylum, it was, as previously stated, a prison. So the inmates could have escaped, which is also unlikely though. There is a potential answer for the Michigan version of the Melonheads though. According to a former student of the seminary school at Felt Mansion, they were called the Melonheads, simply because they were smart, brainy, and came from money. It would eventually become the legend known today. Don't know where the deformed children came from, but I'm not an expert. Never claimed to be. I'm just using Google and shit to look at random facts on the internet. Yippee. Also, the art teacher talking about the nuclear power plants needs to go back to school himself. There are no nuclear power plants even remotely close to Saugatuck. Maybe he can learn actual truthful things from my channel, and I just jinxed myself. And my videos are going to be revealed as trash info or some other random shit. If the Michigan melon heads don't exist, what about the Ohio ones? They don't exist either. Research into the infamous Dr. Crow revealed he died shortly after World War II, which is when the government hired him to experiment in the legend, so he couldn't have performed experiments on the melon heads at all. I, for one, find it impossible for no records to exist of Dr. Crow being dead, especially if I have his supposed full real name. I have found no obituary, nothing, no gravesite, nothing. Honestly, his great niece could just be chasing that good drug clout. Ohio and Michigan are out, but what about Connecticut? Sorry to say, but they don't exist either. There are no roads in Connecticut called Dracula Drive. There are many roads similar to what is described, like Sawmill City Road, Edmonds Road, Jeremy Swamp Road, etc. I could go on all day about naming some fucking roads in Connecticut, but you guys don't give a shit about that. Let's get back to the melonheads. Clap the cymbals, monkey. That's all I'm here for, is just to clap the fucking cymbals. I even found an article from Damned Connecticut where the author traveled down a sort of Dracula Drive and saw absolutely fucking nothing. However, the first time he went, it was during the day, so I can understand how you guys would be like, well, actually, it was during the day, so in reality, he didn't really get into the melonhead zone. But he went back at night later on, with cameras too, and they still caught fucking nothing. The Connecticut version has the most damning evidence against it. The asylum that burned down, according to historical records, never even existed in the first place. I don't know where they're getting this fucking asylum from, but it wasn't even where they said it was. The family being exiled for witchcraft isn't even close to being true either. Little history fact for you folks. Back in the day of people being accused of witchcraft, they weren't exiled. They were just straight burned. We lit those fuckers on fire. We cooked them nice and slow flambe style. We Joan of Arc'd their bitch ass. There ain't no way this family lived to produce offspring. We would have caught them, put them on the stake, and said, God, take these bodies back and let the souls go to hell where Satan can collect them back. If the family did exist, they are literal ash by this point. What's even worse is the forests in Connecticut were cut down and weren't even growing back until the 19th century. They couldn't escape into the woods because the 19th century is well after we stopped hunting for people practicing witchcraft. We decide, you know what? Go do whatever. We'll just shame you secretly and put up crosses near you so Satan can fucking know. Stay the fuck away. Michigan, Ohio, and Connecticut are out. But do the melonheads exist somewhere else? They actually could. There's a group of isolated people living in the Appalachian Mountains, cause yes, baby, it's fucking back! Yeah! The group that was in those mountains, they were known as the Melungeons. Don't ask me on these fucking names. I swear to God, I do not understand them. They're descendants of Northern Europeans and Sub-Saharan Africans that were brought over to Virginia during the 17th century. They were brought in as servants, you know, because they were black. Supposedly, their name just got shortened to the Melonheads for some unknown reason. Probably because they were black. It's very reasonable to assume that similar isolated groups could live in other locations close to the legends of the three states. Now, there's something I've been putting off, and it's about time I roast the absolute living fuck out of this man. Mr. Redditor, that I don't know the username of or remember where I saw your comment, you have poked a beast, and the beast is biting back. I'm making it seem like I actually do roast him a lot, but honestly, I can't because I don't remember anything, like his username or his profile picture. You replied to someone saying that they didn't do their basic research to discover the melonheads are really the Monogishi from Cree folklore. Your basic research that you have mentioned yourself is clicking the see also links on Wikipedia. Great basic research. Just so you know, the see also is related articles. Articles that are similar, not articles that are the same fucking thing. I, following your advice, decide to do my own basic research to figure out if this folklore is actually the Melonheads. The Cree are Native Americans who lived in, drumroll please, Western fucking Canada. That's in the opposite direction of the fucking legends. It's literally on the other side of the fucking continent. You see this melon head here? You probably look like this anyway, so roasting you is below my pay grade and I'm not getting paid shit. By the way, if you couldn't tell by this whole tirade, the Monogishi is not the melon heads. No mythical being, folklore creature, or urban legend is the answer behind these deformed children. So maybe they are just deformed children. However, even that couldn't be the case. Hydrocephalus wouldn't allow these children to live without any form of medical treatment, which I'm sure they aren't getting in the woods from any reputable source. Maybe the hobos out there are actual PhD holders who treat these kids crazy style and they retain their head shape. I don't know. I ain't God. 50% of people being affected by hydrocephalus will die by the age of 3. 80% of the rest of those poor bastards will die before they become an adult. They have to mate like actual rabbits and multiply twice as fast for these children to actually exist with this disease. Hydrocephalus cannot be the disease making these kids' heads fucking massive. There are a few more that can make body parts swollen. None of these fit any of the stories with the melon heads, but we have to explore every option. Something anybody with basic research skills can do. Unlike Mr. Redditor, who just clicks see also links on fucking Wikipedia. Allergic reactions can cause swelling, but unless they're permanently by the allergen, this can't be it. Heat edema is a skin condition that swells the hands or legs due to I can't say this fucking word, vasodilatory pooling. I have no fucking idea what that is, nor do I care at this point. I'm tired of the fucking melon heads. Heat edema is temporary. However, there is a permanent condition that exists. It's called acromegaly. Fuck me, I fucking hate these science words! It causes a lot of growth hormones to be produced by the pituitary gland. I can say that word. That sounds like a great answer, but it only affects adults, which we have proven time and time again that these are deformed children. Birth defects and deformities also exist. I don't have any listed that make your head big. Any other medical conditions that cause a giant head require intensive medical care to survive. The true reason these melon heads don't exist is because there's nobody around to try and treat these children who are 100% dying from these afflictions, from these diseases, before people can even see them. The melon heads aren't real children. They could still be a mythical creature. The previously stated Makyawisug are from the Mohegan tribe. The Mohegan Native American tribe is, drumroll please, from Connecticut. We got them, boys! We found them! We got the melon heads! We got them right where we fucking want them, baby! The melon heads in Michigan and Ohio are probably not real, but the ones in Connecticut could very well be mythical creatures still seen by the natives and the people who live there to this very day. We got them, boys! The melon heads could be in fact real! Connecticut, with their fucking incest, is the story that is the most true. And that's the insane part, is that all because of fucking incest do we have melon heads. Yeah, baby. Melon heads cannot exist scientifically, but Native American legends are made from somewhere. Be wary, people of the YouTube intro, if you ever travel to Connecticut. The melon heads, or should I say, the Makyawisug, could get you if you look them straight in the eyes with no respect given. They will literally spin the canoe you're in until you die, which is an actual part of the folklore.
Bonus stage.
Here's this video that I saw. Apparently it shows a melon head. Oh, spooky music inbound. Wait, there's what? wait, hold on, wait.
What do you guys do?
That's the melon head. The fuck? Hold on. Frame by frame this motherfucker. That is the melon head. Right there. They photoshopped the fucking baby in there. So, after making the script and all that, I found some more information about some shit that might be the shit that the shit was the shit. Dudleytown is an abandoned settlement in Connecticut. It's in a valley called Dark Entry Forest. It's a very spooky spooky name right there. And since people are doing their usual shit of vandalizing the fuck out of the place, it's now closed down permanently for visitors. So if you go there, you'll get arrested. People say the place is extremely haunted, and it's rumored that people who lived there at the time saw creatures. Now, I'm not, they didn't really have a description of the creature anywhere, but they could just be good old-fashioned melon heads. There is something else I found after recording the script for the Melon Head video. There is actually a zoo somewhere near Saugatuck. It's called Lakewood Farm, and it's like a petting zoo. They don't have any underground tunnels that they're transporting the fucking monkeys under, but it's still technically like a petting zoo, so it counts.
I'm a melon head.
I'm a melon head.
I'm a melon head. I'm as fruity as can be. You'd be really fruity too if